Open 8 inner gate formation! The gate of death! The gate of monsters, madness, and magic! Sigazo! Let the power of youth explode!
All right, folks. Welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with actor Skip Stellrecht about fun times behind the scenes of Naruto, falling into acting accidentally, life on the beach, Might Guy, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there, and without further ado, here you go. Let's skip just to get started here, man. Take us back in time. You're a youngster. Are you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all the above?
I'm a fort builder and troublemaker. I
That's
grew
a
up
great
that.
combo.
Not much of a reader. I mean, I read. Nowadays, I spend more time listening to books while I'm driving because I spend a lot of time in traffic. And I'm either sitting there playing my ukulele while I'm driving in traffic or I'm listening to a book.
What sort of trouble are we talking about?
Oh, dude, I grew up with this, the same trouble every kid gets into. I mean, I had the cuffs put on me a couple of times when I was younger, but nothing, malicious stuff. But some funny times. I got in a buddy of mine and I, if you want to hear a quick little story, this is a pretty good one. A buddy of mine and his dad had an old World War II motorcycle. And it was like kind of the old German motorcycles with the license plates across the fender. It's something you'd see, in the movies. Anyway, his dad was gone. So we thought, hey, let's see if we can get this thing going. And we were both, motorcycle riders, dirt bike riders, and we could fix bikes and knew about motors. So we started tinkering on this thing. And sure enough, man, we got this thing fired up. So I was like, oh my gosh, so we got to ride this. So it's like 11 o'clock at night, midnight, and he lived on kind of a main boulevard. We got on this thing and it had a little tiny pillbox seat on the back fender that I was sitting on with a big flashlight over my head because it had no lights. And we are flying down the boulevard. And it's like, we look back on it now, I was like, how did we not get killed? We just kept finding gears and it just kept going faster and faster. Stuff like that. That's what I did. Same guy. We found an old Navy flare in a signal flare in an old bag of his dad's. And we thought, what's this thing do? We popped it. And oh my gosh, the thickest, reddest smoke. Police came out. We taped it to a telephone pole because we didn't know what to do with it. And it just completely fogged the whole boulevard. No one could get through. Police came out, fire came out. We sat there peeking through the window. Are they still there? It's stupid stuff like that. That's what I did.
That's fun, stupid, though.
Fun, stupid. Oh my gosh. Fun. It just goes on and on from there. Crazy stuff.
So you're born and raised in Cali?
Born and raised. Yeah. Orange County, California. Yeah. Grew up as a typical California kid, surfing, skiing, because you can do that. You can literally do that in the same day here. Running around, and back then I'm pretty old, so back then it was orange groves and cows and dairies, and it wasn't the Orange County that it is today. And it was a great place to live. I don't know if you're familiar with Knott's Berry Farm or not.
I'm not.
It's like a Six Flags,
Oh, okay.
amusement park. But when I was a kid, it was just Knott's Berry Farm. Had a couple of rides, and then they had a place called Jungle Island across the street from it. And man, we would ride our bikes down there. And back then, you just dump your bikes in a pile, locking them or anything. We'd play capture the flag for until it started getting dark. We all had to be home by dark, and then we'd jump on our bikes and ride home. It was just the bomb. It was the way to live, man. We just never stood still.
So would you say either your parents or maybe someone in your family was sort of artistically inclined, I guess? You think that's where some of your roots come from?
Yeah, actually, well, my mother, actually, both my mom and dad, my mom played piano and my dad played the harmonica and was a killer harmonica player. My dad kind of, he kind of traveled to a different drummer in a lot of ways. He didn't care about what people thought of him. He was just himself. He was a great guy, but he didn't care. I remember he bought these shoes and these red, white, and blue shoes with stars buckled to them. The goofiest looking shoes. He wore them proudly, loved them. But I remember seeing him. I was on the other side of the street. I see him walking down the street, and some people were laughing at him. He could care less, man. It just didn't bother him, which I think is where I got some of my what I do. I don't care. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna be happy,
That's a good
and
quality to have.
it is. It's great. And my mother was the exact opposite of that. She was a go getter. My dad was really slow moving. My mother was just like boom, 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 go, 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 go. And they both were musically inclined. Now, what was interesting is years after I was a teenager, I was going through an old trunk of my grandfather's that was left to me. And I didn't know this. Nobody ever told me this, but it was his vaudeville trunk.
Wow.
And it was like, what? It had all these old costumes and plays, and he did vaudeville. And then I found these old photos of him in the movies back in the 30s. And it was like, wow, that's where it kind of comes from, because I didn't do any of this like I do. I didn't do any of the acting or anything when I was in high school. I was a musician, and I just played rock bands and stuff like that. Little garage bands, nothing big. And it wasn't until I got out of high school that I started doing the acting thing. And it was just a matter of looking for a cool job where I could meet girls and, have fun. That's what that was about. And then it just snowballed.
Did you play an instrument or anything? Were you a
I do.
vocalist?
I play guitar. I sing. I play guitar. I grew up as a drummer.
Mm.
Played drums most of my life. My family got me a ukulele. It's called a fluke, and it's got a square bottom so you can stand it up. And it stood on my mantle for probably 2 years, and then I put it in my car, and I learned to play it in traffic. And it's just like I play it now nonstop. In fact, to the point where I have, carpal tunnel in both wrists. But it's all I play now. I play the guitar occasionally. Like if somebody say, "Hey, can you sing in this wedding?" or "Can you do this?" I say, "Yeah." It takes me a while because the fingering is so much smaller on the uke so it takes me a little while to get it back. But I still play guitar, but mainly just man, uke, 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 all the time.
So while we're on the subject, what records were spinning around the house when you were growing up?
Well, being a drummer, in fact, it's so funny. I ran into somebody the other day that knew me, or I knew them. They were in my neighborhood, and they were saying, "Boy, I remember we walked by your house, and that stereo was blasting, and you were playing the drums." And it was like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" And that's what I did every day. Blew my mother and father's stereo out, blew the speakers out of it because I cranked that all the way up, and then played them. And I was playing to. Creedence Clearwater, Revival, not ELO, Steppenwolf, that kind of music,
The good stuff.
and yeah, classic stuff, classic rock. I'm a big fan of ELO. Grew up with them. Deep Purple is another one that I really like a lot. That's what I played when I was a kid.
I imagine a lot of, were you a big concert goer? I could imagine a lot of bands come through there.
They do, and I wasn't. I just wasn't a concert person. I think I went to probably two concerts when I was younger, and I went to the Beach Boys concert, which was great
I mean, that's a good one.
because they were all still kind of together at that time. And who else did I go see? I went and saw somebody else, but when I was in college, and I can't remember who it was, and it was okay, but I just wasn't a big, huge. I just didn't like the crowds.
Yeah.
Wasn't my thing. I'd rather go to a club. We had a great club called the Golden Bear, which was in Huntington Beach, and I saw several bands there. Same thing in LA. There was the Roxy, and saw several bands at the Roxy. In fact, a friend of mine and I think I was 16, and we were at the Roxy, and who were we there for? It was either Don McLean or Nicolette Larson. I don't remember now. But Glenn Frey was there from the Eagles. So we went over, and he was very cool. And, my buddy was probably 18 or 19, and I think I was 16. And we just kind of said, "Hey, just love your stuff." And he started talking to us. So they had the artist room upstairs of the Roxy, and they had a bouncer there, but the bouncer saw Glenn, and it was like, of course, So my buddy and I, as Glenn was walking up, we just kept talking to him like we were talking about a conversation, and just nodded at the bouncer. And now we find ourselves upstairs over in the corner just watching all this. It was awesome.
We're
You
with
know,
Glenn.
yeah, it was so cool. We were waiting just to get kicked out, but man, that's the kind of stuff that we used to do a lot of, how do we get in here, for free?
Rest in peace. Glenn just passed a couple years ago, I think.
I know.
My uncle and I actually went to the final Eagles concert where they were all together before Glenn passed. So that's something cool we got to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great band. What a great band.
Yeah, they could play hits for hours. They literally did. You just know every song.
Yep. Yeah. I still find myself, driving down the road with my uke and all of a sudden going into an Eagles song, and it's just Eagles. America was another one that I really liked a lot.
It's just funny you mentioned Glenn because just earlier this morning I was just tinkering around on the computer and random YouTube playlist popped up and The Heat Is On came on.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Wow. That's funny.
So when you think back to, maybe formative films and TV shows you grew up on, what comes to mind?
Well, TV shows. Oh my gosh. Still watch them in reruns. My dad. I'll tell you some really great memories of my dad. Is Sunday nights. It was he and I on the couch watching Bonanza.
Mm.
That was a big deal. That was awesome. My dad loved it. I loved it. Any Western back then. I grew up, coming home in the afternoon watching Gilligan's Island and I Dream of Jeannie and all those, stupid half-hour shows. I just loved, as a kid. Watch the Match Game, the old Match Game. It was a game show. You can watch it on YouTube. It was fun. But I'm trying to think. Other than that, what was Beretta was a big show.
Mm.
Wow, these are good questions because I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff forever. Beverly Hillbillies. My sit with my two sisters and watch that.
My wife still tells me to shut up because I will just break into song with the Gilligan's Island theme song around the house.
That's awesome, dude.
Not a big movie goer or anything. Not a big going to the theater check out movies.
Not anymore. I mean, I used to. Used to love going to the movies. There was a time for a while. Oh gosh, probably 15, almost 20 years ago. I was going down a lot of auditions, as actors do, and I would find myself in between, or I would find if I was working, like doing a game or something, and I had something in the afternoon, I'd find myself for 3 or 4 hours. And I found this little theater, and it was awesome. I would go there, and a lot of it was sub. I would go there and just say, "What's up next?" What's in the next 10 minutes, and okay, I'll watch it. And a lot of foreign films, and I would never usually go to that, but man, I loved it. It was so awesome. Saw a lot of films that I would never see just because it was a $2 theater. So it didn't cost me anything.
Hmm.
And I sat there and it was pretty cool, but I don't go to a lot of films anymore. I mean, occasionally there's one that'll come across. I'll tell my wife, hey, let's go see this, let's go sit in the theater and see it. We have a great little theater close to us where it's like $5, and just small. Whereas you go into LA, it's like 20 something, $25. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'll take the $5.
So, Skip, a question I like to ask everyone is, and feel free to take it whichever direction you want to, is, what scared you when you were a kid?
Oh, I'll tell you. Talking about, we'll just blend right into movies. First, deathly scary movie that I ever saw. That I was probably 15, maybe. I think right in there somewhere. A buddy of mine. I'm sorry, but I just remembered. I can remember his face just now. A buddy of mine and I went and saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And oh, dude. Oh, am I right?
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, we were walking home constantly looking over our shoulders, looking for that van to roll up, that was one of the scariest things, creepiest things I'd ever seen in my life. Between
Yeah.
that one and the OG Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
That was the other one. Those two just changed things, it was like, oh yeah, no way.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was more scared of the hitchhiker than I was Leatherface.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was like, whoa! Everything about that, I can remember it so well, even to today. For people that haven't seen it, the meat hook. The two old people with the hammer. It was like I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but yeah, that'll leave a memory in your mind.
Right. So what was the catalyst for you wanting to try acting for the first time?
Well, I was playing again music and loving that, and I was in going to a junior college in Orange County, and a good friend of mine and I, we were hanging out at the beach a lot, playing volleyball all the time. Just what we did. That was our days, you know. In fact, I got a job with Frito Lay, and I was delivering Fritos, and had my big Frito truck. And you could set your route any way you wanted to. You could set your hours, kind of thing. So I always set my hours, and I think I was 19, and I would set my hours to where I had Wednesdays off, but I had to go in and pull a load. I'd pull my load like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then head to the beach. So you'd see my big Frito truck parked there at the beach. We play volleyball most of the day, but I was okay with it because that's how my route was set. So we were going to school. We decided we were going to be flight attendants because it was like, wow, that's an awesome job. You meet girls all the time, you travel, you don't work a lot of hours, so let's do it. So they had these classes, how to be a flight attendant or whatever. So both of us signed up, and there was this girl there from this modeling school, and she was mainly talking to the girls, about makeup and the hair and this and that. And I said, hey, do you have anything for guys over there? And she said, well, we do have a print modeling type thing where you learn how to photo and this and that. So I went and checked it out, and I thought, wow, this is cool. So I got involved with it, put a portfolio together, and got an agent and started doing print work, magazine ads. And I wasn't tall enough to be a model, but I could certainly be a commercial print person. And that was cool. And I was on a job, and this is really going down to the beginning on up.
Hmm.
Got a job, couple more jobs. And all of a sudden, I'm doing this, and I was on a job, and somebody said, "Hey, you ought to do commercials. That's where the real money is." And I said, "Okay, how do you do that?" And they said, "Well, go take this class with this guy, this workshop, or whatever." So I did that, started doing commercials, and started booking commercials. And I'm like, "Wow!" And forget the flight attendant thing, man. I was like, "This is awesome." And I'm doing a commercial. And somebody said, "You ever thought about being an actor?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's not really my thing." And they said, "Well, go talk to this guy, whatever." And I kind of got the bug and started doing theater, loved it, and did it for a couple of years, studying with different people around LA. Got an agent, started going out and booked a job here or there, and then
There
one
you
thing to
go.
another. Yeah, that was it. That was it. I was very fortunate, very blessed, and it just worked out. I
Yeah.
worked hard at it, because you're doing that, trying to be an actor, you're working three other jobs to pay the bills. I was doing construction, working as a caterer, you name it, I was doing it, just to pay the bills.
Let me split this one in two since you started as a musician and then you were an actor. First time on stage as a performer for both. How did they go? Did they go smoothly?
It did. From that point on, it was like, this is what I want to do. What had happened was, as a stage actor, I'm pretty sure it was Glass Menagerie. I had this monologue that I was using for auditions. Back then, you had to have a monologue and this and that. You go and audition with it. I thought I had a new monologue. I thought I'm gonna go try this. And they were having auditions for the Glass Menagerie at one of the colleges here, and they were looking at people that weren't at the college. So I went, I tried it out, and I just was literally just trying it out to see the response. And the response was good. I got the job, in this play, and it was awesome. I loved it. So I did the play, and then one thing led to another, and then I got hooked up with a small theater company that was just starting out. The artistic director there was a man by the name of Sal Romy, a wonderful person who just recently passed away, and really made an imprint on my life, especially for living in the moment and doing your thing. But just a brilliant acting teacher and artistic director there. And we started a theater company called Friends and Artists Theater in Hollywood. And that's where I did play after play and really got going, and started directing a bit. And it was a blast. And it was the best. That's where I kind of, hooked up.
Are you still active on stage at all?
No, not really. It just depends. It's kind of time consuming, and I just, for one reason, I don't have the time. And I can tell you more about that in a little while. I'll tell you what I'm doing now mainly, which will answer those questions. Uh, but if the right piece came along, I said a long time ago that I would probably limit myself to one acts because I can, I don't live in LA, and so the drive going back and forth for rehearsals and such gets to be a bit of a grind. I've been doing a show. It's a like a public show with a company called Dial M Murder Mysteries, and it's a murder mystery show. I've
Mm.
been doing it for 30 years, and I recently just kind of laid back on that one. Wonderful woman by the name of Peggy Phillips created it, owns it, started it, and best one of my best friends. And I've done, I don't know, probably 1,000 shows over the years with her. And that was kind of my theater thing. That kept me going. There's a lot of improv, a lot of working with the audience, working with hecklers, and it was the best. Been to Europe a couple of times performing for the troops. Started doing an Elvis show of all things from that show just by a fluke. And it started going well. So all of a sudden I started doing Elvis and went over to Germany and Kosovo and Sarajevo performing Elvis for the troops. And it was a blast. It was kind of a funny Elvis show. There's a clip on it on YouTube somewhere when I was over in Europe. And we had a blast. And I just really enjoyed it. I don't do that much anymore, but it's a lot of work. So I don't get a chance to do that. But so after taking way too long to answer your question, yeah, I don't do too much of it anymore. I'm just too involved in what I do now, which I will just tell you, I started doing what's called looping. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm in a loop group, and a friend of mine and she runs it. It's her group by the name of Georgia Simon, and we hooked up together years ago. And I just work with her most of the time. Sometimes other people, but we've had quite the run the last 15 years, and that's pretty much what I do now. I don't really do any on camera anymore. I just love the looping gig so much, and love the people that I get to work with every day. And it's just people say you're going to take a vacation here. I really don't, man. My whole life's a vacation, you know. So absolutely love that. During the pandemic, it was kind of a drag because we still worked, but we were working from home.
Hmm.
And so I didn't get to see my friends other than on a Zoom. But now we're back, and it's a laugh fest from the moment we walk in the door. We're getting the job done, but we're having a great time. So that's what I do. And for those that don't know what that is, we're going in and adding all the background voices in films and television. I think we've done the last three Godzillas. We did. I was going to tell you when we were talking about what scares you. We were doing Quiet. Is it Quiet Place?
Yeah. A Quiet Place.
Okay, yeah, not this last one, but the one before.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all on the stage, and sometimes they'll show us the scene or whatever before. And so I'm watching the scene. Oh, dude, I jumped. I almost fell out of my chair because I didn't see it coming. Where it's very quiet, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this cop car gets blown up in the air, and I just did not see that. It looked like it was just parked. And oh my gosh, I about jumped. I was like, okay. We also did the last couple of It's,
Yeah.
and that one's another one that's like, oh no, 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 no. And I told the guy, I said, I'd go see this movie if it wasn't for the clown, because I just can't do that, dude. That's a great mystery. It's a great movie, but I can't do the clown, man. That thing's scary. But we worked on those, and we do all the yelling and the screaming, the concert going, anything that you see on a TV, like a sports game or whatever. They may own the picture, but they don't own the voices. So they'll say, hey, Skip, I need 30 seconds of football or baseball or whatever. I need a horse race right here. And that's what we do.
Speaking with actors over the years, you always hear different techniques that work for certain actors. And, us laymen, we always hear the term method acting, which I think
Right.
has become a bit muddled.
Right.
To me, it just seems like each actor has their own personalized method that works for them. They kind of borrow from each other.
Yeah.
What's your method?
Just to try to remember my lines, hit the
That's a good
spot where
one.
I'm supposed to hit. And, I mean, I don't, I'm not some of those guys, are just fantastic, great actors that use all those techniques. And I studied some of those techniques, the whole Meisner thing, all this. And I use a bit of it probably, but I kind of, when we had the theater, we had a sign over one of the toilets in the bathroom, and it was Spencer Tracy. saying, I think it was something like, remember your lines and try not to bump into anything. That was his school of acting, you know. And there's there's a certain truth to that. I grew up, with instructors who were like, man, just be honest and listen. Don't act, react. That was the biggest thing those were the notes that stuck with me my whole life. Is listen to what's being told to you by the other actor and just react with the dialogue that you're given, you know? And that's what worked for me. That the when he told me acting is not acting, it's reacting.
Mm.
That is like that's the one thing that really clicked for me. You're not acting, you're reacting, because if you do that, then it's honest. And that's when people go, wow, and that's when you can move people and make people, think differently or whatever. So that's what worked for me.
I know it's not as common anymore now, but back in the '80s they used to do ensemble recordings a lot. I think it's called where you have the whole voice cast in the same room together. Have you done much of that, or is it pretty much just gone now?
For games.
Mm.
I did a few for a couple of games. But yeah, they don't really do that much anymore. It's sometimes a little hard to control. Now, of course, we do that in the looping business. We're all together,
Mm.
but we are doing crowd stuff. And if we're doing a single person, hey, I need a specific, then you see that guy in the back over there by the Coke machine, he's yelling at somebody. So put something in his mouth. But other than that, it's just, I don't think I mean, it's still done. I walk into studios and there's mics and chairs like set in a horseshoe. And I'm going, what were you guys working on? And it's, oh, we're doing this and we do it together. Oh, cool. But I don't do it much anymore. Done it a few times. I'll tell you a funny story though. I was doing a game and it was that way. We had 6 actors in there. It was a war game, and they had big baffles between each one of us, and we're all yelling, give me that 50 caliber, rah, rah, and this and that. And there was an older gentleman there. I was younger then, and he said after the first couple of takes, he said, "Yeah, hey, is this what we're gonna be doing all day?" And they're like, "Yeah, pretty much. This is it." Uh, yeah, okay, no thanks. Put his put his earphones down and walked out. That was it. One of the greatest moments I ever saw. Like, dude, that's awesome. I want to do that one day. That was pretty cool.
He had better things to do that day.
Well, you know what it is you don't realize how much it takes on your throat. And if you got a gig the next day, or you got I think he had on camera stuff that he was doing. It's like, I'm not blowing my voice out for this. I got to be able to talk tomorrow. And I've had that same thing happen to where, and luckily on some of the shows, if it was huge fighting stuff, they would know, just book them on Friday. Because of the looping, I was doing so much of that. They were like, he's not going to work in between. If you're doing this much yelling, he won't be able to do it because I got to work the next day.
Right.
And I might be doing a high school show, and there's no way I can do a high school show. Hey, what's up, guys? Yo, yeah. Oh, yeah. My mom won't let me. I mean, I got to be up in here, dude. What's up, man? You know. So they were very respectful of that. It was pretty cool.
So is there much difference for you acting wise if you're doing I guess a video game versus a TV show?
You mean like
Behind the scenes, are technical aspects wise, is it just maybe more lines, I guess?
you mean on camera opposed to in the studio?
If you're doing a voice for a video game or a voice for a character on a TV, like an animated
Oh,
show.
like an anime.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not really. I find that games, it depending on the game, I've done a couple where it was just like doing an anime because there
Mm.
was some depth to the character, there was something going on. Where most of the games I've done, it really is, okay, give us 3 deaths, give us 3 hits, one small, medium, and large. Okay. Oh, okay, moving on, let's go. And so you don't have to think about that too much, you just do it.
Right.
But when you have a character that's got a monologue this big, then you got to think. But here's the thing, it's like if I'm doing something like a Naruto where I'm playing Guy, and I played him for years, I know that character and he says things a certain way and this and that, and great. Whereas if I go in to do a game with a character, I don't see it ahead of time. And it's like, okay, I may see it a day ahead of time, but most of the time you get in there, okay, what are we doing? Oh, okay, you're going to be this guy, and the script's in front of you, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to need, like, just give me a couple minutes to read through this a couple of times, because you haven't had the chance. And you look at the character, you look what he looks like, and you're going, all right, I'm thinking this would work, and
Mm-hmm.
and then the director, if you're way off, the director will kind of, okay, Skip, that was great, but he's more of this. This is what he's going through. No problem. You make the adjustment, and that's when a good director really comes in handy and helps you.
So if you take all the external factors like pay and rehearsal and all that stuff away, do you have more fun just as an actor on stage, screen, or in the booth?
In the booth,
Mm.
for me, and I tell you why is because when you're unless you're a star, when you're an actor coming on a set and you're the new guy, man, it's hard to get comfortable. You got everybody else that's what they do every day. They're all family, and you're coming in, and depending on how much dialogue you have and how the shot is set up, if it's all on you, all you're thinking about is don't screw up, don't screw this up, and it's hard to really relax. Where am I in the booth? This is my world. And it's like, I'm going to make you laugh as an engineer or a director. That's what I want to do. I want to make you laugh and have a
Mm-hmm.
good time today. And I'm working with people that I know. They're like family for the most part. And if it's somebody new, I might be a little more serious at the beginning of it, but then I'm going to roll into having a good time once I get to know these guys. And because of that, the whole day goes easy. We move fast, which is what they want. We get out and we deliver a good product. That's hard to do when you're on camera. And I tell you the other thing that goes with on camera, if you and I were doing a session right now rather than an interview, I would do the same thing. I'd check in, 15 minutes ahead of time, 10 minutes ahead of time. Hey, I'm here. And then the time hits. It's like, here we go. Here's what you're going to do. Here's your first line, whatever. Do it. I walked in from my bedroom into my office, and here we go. If I'm doing on camera, I drive to the set for an hour. I try to find somebody that knows where I'm supposed to go. I check in. I go to my dressing room. I get my lines that have been changed. Oh gosh. Okay. Now I'm working on my lines. And then they say, yeah, we're behind a little bit. Okay. Now I'm in my dressing room for 2 hours. Now in my dressing room for 3 hours, 4 hours. Finally, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted by just sitting doing nothing. And here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's a difficult thing. Some guys are really great at that. They're really great. I'm not one of them. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I did. I loved it. But one of the last things I did was a movie called Kill Speed, and I did it with a friend who I became friend was the director, Kim Bass, terrific guy, and I got to go up in a jet
Mm.
and fly in this fighter jet because I was supposed to be chasing somebody, and they said, "You want to? You afraid to fly? You okay to go up? And it's like a kid in a candy store. Yeah, and the stunt pilot, who was one of the best in the business, his name was also Skip. He was great, and we were out in the desert going through canyon walls, maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet off the canyons with the wings. And he told me, if you get frightened at all, just let me know and we'll get out. No, we're good. And then straight up in the air, it was the best. So
Wow.
those kind of things are cool.
Yeah.
That's something you don't get to do every day. I was so glad to get to do that.
It seems like you got your own home studio just, looking or while we're speaking of. Do you think that's a necessity post-COVID for voice actors?
Well, it kind of is. Mine is very minor. I didn't put a lot of money into it. I did it at the beginning of COVID, and I had a setup to do auditions, but nothing set to where it was broadcast quality. And then when COVID came, we were looping from home. So, in fact, I was setting up a lot of other people's studios, and I was really much into doing it on a budget. Buy a good mic, not the best mic. You don't need it for this. A great mic will do well. You don't need to build a studio. I was building PVC studios for people out of PVC pipe. And in fact, mine today is basically a PVC frame hanging over me. And then And then another one behind me, where those curtains are. Those are soundproof curtains. And normally there's foam all around me that I don't have today because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need it. But normally there's soundproof foam, and it works great. Does the job. If I was, excuse me, recording more from home, I would probably get a little better mic and a little better setup. But it works, and I tell people don't spend a fortune on it now, unless you're going to do everything from home, which some people do. Some people, and this is why it happened, was a lot of people during the pandemic moved away. They
Mm.
moved, and they're living in a place where it's just not able to get to a studio, so they built one instead, and they spent thousands of dollars, which was warranted. Yeah, I have it set up. I loop one show from home now, and I have a shotgun. We loop mostly with shotgun mics, which is above me, but I didn't want to be standing the whole time, so I changed mics. And I don't like using the camera mic because it sounds a little echoey,
Yeah.
um, which is why I hooked this one up for this today. But yeah, it's not really people ask me that at conventions or if I'm meeting fans. Hey, what's the best thing to do? And I tell them, go get yourself, spend about $100 on some PVCs, some moving blankets, and then go on to Amazon, order some soundproof foam. You can get it in 4x2 sheets,
Yep.
and get some. I tell them to get shower curtain hangers, punch a hole in them, and then hang it on your PVC, and you can surround yourself with the foam. Get yourself a $400 or $500 mic, and although now, I was traveling with somebody a while back, and they showed me this mic that they put into their iPhone, and it's about $100 mic. Oh my gosh, she did a sample. It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous the technology they have
It's
now.
getting easier. Yeah.
It is. It is. We have people that loop with us that might be traveling at the time, and they're in their hotel room, and they set up in the closet with these little traveling systems, and they sound fantastic.
Yeah.
So you just don't need to spend a fortune, but you do need to put a little effort into it, and you do need to listen to it to make sure you don't sound like you're in a bathroom or that it's crackly, and if you want a shot at it.
Right. I ask, well, friends will ask me, or if they want to start to do narrations or audiobooks and stuff. I'm like, man, you could just literally buy a towel and drape it over you and drape you over the mic. If you have no budget whatsoever, you can make yourself sound good that way.
You can. Here's the problem with that, because I've told people the same thing. But if you're wanting to narrate, the problem with that is you're not comfortable, and to narrate something, you have to be comfortable to get into what you're doing. Now, for an audition, you might be able to get away with that, and people have done it. But it's just as easy to make some room in your closet. And back here is not what you have to worry about. It's everything in front of you. So just pile all your clothes or a pillow or two in front of you, and get something around here, and just talk into that mic, but you'll have the freedom to move and express yourself,
Right.
rather than trying to keep the cover off the mic. So I agree with you, but I have a buddy of mine who does narration, and he just sits at home, goes into his little closet. He made it into a little booth. I set up a couple closet booths for people, and they work great.
Yeah.
Um,
Closets are
it's
perfect for booths. It's a
They
booth.
really are. Yeah, they're fantastic. My I happen to be fortunate where my office is a dead office. It's just a dead sounding room, so I didn't have to do too much. There's just no echo.
So earlier you mentioned Mike Guy for Naruto.
Mhm.
Was that a typical audition for you? Do you remember anything standing out about it?
Well, I remember Mary Elizabeth McGuinn, who's a friend of mine. She called and said, "Hey, they were having a little trouble finding this character." And I said, "Okay, I'll come in. Absolutely, thank you." I was thrilled to go in and try it. I had worked with her on Cowboy Bebop before that, and so I went in, and at that time, they showed me the character, and I thought, okay. And you think about it for a couple of minutes, and it's funny. And I tell people this all the time. At that time, I was doing Elvis. So if you listen to the original, when Mike Guy makes his appearance, you'll hear, "How's everybody doing?" And you'll hear that little bit of roll. And because I had mixed a few characters I had mixed in, which is how I kind of come up with my characters. I listened to the voices of people. Charlton Heston from Planet of the Apes. And it was that whole,
Damn, yeah.
Get your hands off
I
me.
can hear it clear
So,
as day when you
yeah,
said it,
yes. So if
man.
you take that, and then there's a wonderful actor by the name of Ed Winters. He was on MASH. He played Colonel Flagg. He was a CIA guy, and he would always come in and, oh, I'm gonna get you one of these days, and he would have that clip to it, you know. So you take that clip, you mix that with a little bit of roll from it. How's everybody doing? All right, I tell you what, guys, and you know, and then as we went along, we eventually lost the Elvis roll and went more into just the clip sound, you know. But that was an awesome audition. It was a lot of fun, and we laughed a lot. And I will tell you what I said earlier about making people laugh. We laughed more on that show with Guy Sensei because he's so goofy in a fun, wonderful way anyway, that it wasn't hard to go off script a little bit and just, you know, go. And it was a blast, you know, rather than, all right, 10-10, here's what we're going to do. It would be, well, hello, 10-10, you know, and it was just like, oh, yeah. And I never, you know, would say when it was coming, it would just like beep, beep, beep. And then I'd go and just to get people. And the first time I ever did, I remember the first time I ever said Kakashi, you know, all right, Kakashi. You know, everybody dropped off the rolling on the floor, you know, it's like, what? And that's what everybody asked me to say now. Hey, can you do Kakashi for me? I don't know. I mean, I just say Kakashi. No, say Kakashi. All right, Kakashi. That Kakashi thinks he's so cool.
Oh, that's hilarious that they gave you some room for improv there.
Oh yeah. Although the writing on that show was fantastic, you know, and I mean it's dub writing, you know, they're
Yeah.
just, but they did a great job, and they also did a great job because you know, Guy Sensei had a definite rhythm, and if the dialogue didn't fit the rhythm, you couldn't say it because we had a few times where it's like I can't get all those words, not at this pace that he
Right.
talks in, and well, try to shut me, it won't work. And the thing about anime fans is they're probably the greatest fans in the world, and they want it right, and they deserve to have it right, and they will bust you big time if it's not. You know, you'll get some guy walk up, yeah, in episode 344, you actually said something that didn't sound like Guy at all, and I'm wondering what happened. You know, it's like, well, here's what happened. You know, or whatever, or I might have a cold that day. Yeah, he sounded a lot deeper. Yeah, I had a cold, but we had to get it out. You know,
There are
they're,
very few casual anime fans.
oh boy, isn't that the truth? You know, even the ones that are, you know, I get, yeah, this is their first time to a con. Really? Oh yeah, but he just got me into it. But I'm just, you know, like, awesome. They get into it really quick.
So, how far along the Naruto ride did you realize just how big of a deal that show was?
Never, I never did till years after.
Yeah.
You know, I never went out. I was never big on this autograph thing. I just didn't do it, you know, and I was working a lot, you know, that
Yeah.
was part of it. I was very blessed to be looping a lot, and so didn't have time. But I would, and I was giving my autograph to people, you know. I would show up to a con every once in a while just if it was close, and just meet people that were dressed like my characters and introduce myself and make them go crazy, which was awesome, you know, because it made a memory for them. I remember that guy. We didn't know who he was. He came up and he said all of a sudden, and it's like, and he said, Kakashi, you know, we lost our minds, you know, and that's fun. And it's fun to give them that memory and then just sign stuff for people or whatever they want. But then it became more, you know, a big collector's market, and people were buying stuff and selling it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's not good. I still give it away all the time, you know, especially if I see somebody driving down the road with their car plastered with Naruto's stickers or something, you know, I will. I've literally been on the freeway and had somebody roll their window because they were just plastered, and I'm going, "Hey, you know, you into Naruto, or is it somebody your son?" You know, "Oh yeah, we love it." Blah blah blah. "Oh really?" "Well, just so you know," and you know, and then I toss them a picture through their window or whatever, you know, a signed picture, you
That's
know,
awesome, man.
and then they'd catch up to me, you know, yes way. That's kind of fun to do. But yeah, it's those are cool times, cool moments.
Yeah. No, Skip, I know you've done a shit ton of voices, but is there a few or maybe one that stands out to you as, you know, one that was kind of straining on the vocal cords, one you'd rather never do again?
Mm, that's a good one. just games.
Mm.
The character wise, I didn't really. I mean, Guy Sensei, there was a few times, especially towards the end there, with all the inner gates opening up. Man, that was tough. Some days were tough, but again, they were really, really great about scheduling. We did all that at a studio called Studiopolis. Jamie Simone, the owner of Studiopolis, who was awesome, dude, and he knew that, and when they were scheduling stuff, and so it never wore me out. I mean, I'd walk out on a Friday if we had nothing but fights to do. It was tough, but never did not like doing that character. I can't think of any characters that I would never not want to do other than a few game characters.
Death scenes over and over
Yeah.
again.
Well, it was just it's like, there are movies that we loop, and I look at it going, oh, Godzilla is one of them, because it's just gonna be balls out screaming and yelling, and you're going away with no voice by the end of the day. We do
Mm.
all the dialogue stuff early on, and then it's all right, guys, we're running from the lizard, and so it just screams and yells, and or the military stuff, when you're trying to fight the Godzilla, and that would get crazy.
Mm.
We have a big joke where somebody will walk in and say, "What are we doing today?" We got a few fights and this and that. There is one guy on fire. You'll take him. And it's just a joke. And so recently we were working on a kind of a John Wick kind of thing, and there was a couple of guys on fire, and I thought they were kidding, and because that's a big joke.
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't kidding. This guy not only on fire, but he's like on fire running down the road, and they wanted blood curdling screams the whole time, and then when he hits the ground, continue to scream, and then go less and less and less until it's just, and you're dead, And then the worst thing you can hear is, "Awesome, dude. Can we do one more?" It's like, yeah,
It's
yeah,
never one
okay,
more.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's those I could, fewer is better,
Yeah.
but I really enjoy what I do. So there's really no characters that I've ever done in things that I look back on and going, man, I wouldn't want to do that again. I would do them all again.
So just to wind down here, Skip, a question I like to ask everyone is have you ever had an experience you'd consider supernatural, paranormal, or an event you can't explain?
I don't think so. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I guess a little maybe. Every once in a our house, we bought our house and years ago, and we were living close by, just a few doors down. And there was a young couple, very 70s hippie-ish kind of couple, And I think the woman died. I don't know if died in the house, but died while she was living, a young woman. And they were both, I think, big smokers. And every once in a while, I will walk through my house and I'll smell cigarette smoke. And I'm like, where is that? And just once in a while. And it's just really, I can't explain it. And nobody smokes. There's no one smoking on either side of us, So it's like, where is that coming from? That's the one thing that comes to my mind,
It's a remnant, like
because
a remnant of the past
yeah, and
owners.
it's not always, it's just every once in a while at night I'll walk by, and I usually walk. I have a long hallway, and I'll walk down this long hallway, and my office is now, it was their bar room. They had mirrors everywhere, carpet halfway up the walls, a disco ball in the middle type thing. It was their party room,
Yeah.
whatever. And right about where I get a few feet from the door, that's when I start smelling it, and it's like, wow, that's weird. And I always think about that. I always think it's that girl.
They must be
You know?
partying.
Yeah, yeah. Or she's just waiting for the party to start. Like, ain't gonna happen, honey. Party's done. Put that cigarette out.
Now, do you consider yourself spiritual, religious, superstitious, anything like that?
I'm very a man of faith. I'm a Christian and have been most of my life. Not to say I haven't fallen off the boat every once in a while, because I have. But I try to stay on the straight and narrow. These days, still go to the same church I did as a kid. It's
Mm.
changed a lot. I actually run a food room now there, and with another fella, and we feed people that don't have food, and it's pretty extensive. And does a lot of good. I really enjoy it. I've been doing it for a few years now, and I love doing that. But definitely a believer, and I'll pray for anybody, and I believe in that. I believe in the power of it. But I also believe in Martians. So when I'm in the desert, I always look up. I have no problem with anything. I'm really I try to be as non-judgmental a person as I can be, and just everybody live their lives and be happy. I just want people to be happy, whatever makes you happy. But absolutely, that's the way I was raised. And like I said, I definitely fell off the wagon a few times, here and there. But nowadays, pretty straight, and especially today, I count on that faith today, to
Yeah.
get me through days where it's like, I don't know how we're going to get through this. And I have a shirt that says, trust God, not the government. And I really believe that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, I have no problem, man. It's like, I know how the story ends. So I'm going to be joyful wherever I am, and nothing's going to take that away from me. And I really preach that, don't let anybody or anything take your joy away. It's just it's not worth it, man. Be joyful, and live the fullest. During the pandemic, I wasn't one that really got caught up into it. In fact, it was some of the better days for me. And I know there were people that really had some rough times, but there was no traffic. I was going to the beach, in record time,
Yeah.
and had to do it, on the down low a few times because it got pretty crazy down here. But I'm like, but I'm the only one here, officer. There's nobody. I'm not breathing on anybody,
All right, you got to
other
find that
than that.
silver lining.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you always can if you look for it. I'm a big believer in that, and it's just I talk to kids all the time about just find the joy in whatever you're doing, dude. Find it
Right.
and live it, and don't let anybody take away from that. Are you familiar with the? I just read it the other day. Familiar with the old fable about the man, the boy, and the donkey?
I'm not.
Oh, it's awesome, dude. It's very quick.
Go ahead.
There's a man, a boy, and a donkey, and they're walking into town, and they come across this group of people, and the group of people are laughing at him and mocking and judging him and say, "Hey, man, you got a perfectly good donkey there. Why don't you ride it?" And the man's feeling kind of like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I probably should." So he puts his boy on the donkey, and this boy's riding the donkey. He's walking. They're walking along, and they come across another group of people, and that group of people starts yelling at, "Hey, look at that kid! He's on that donkey, making his dad walk the whole way. That's ridiculous." The man hears it, and he goes, "Oh man, okay." And so he gets on the donkey. Now they're both riding the donkey. They go a little further, and they come off with another group of people. And they're like, "Look at those guys! That poor donkey. He's not big enough to carry both of them. Hey, what's the matter with you guys?" So by the time he gets to town, he's carrying the donkey, and they're walking into town, and everybody's going, "What are you, an idiot? What are you carrying that donkey for?" Moral of the tale being, you can't please everybody all the time. Everybody has an opinion, and good, valid, bad, whatever. You can take it or you don't, but you don't let it walk over your opinion. You don't want what you believe. And I just love that when I heard it. It's like, man, you're always going to have people judging you for something, giving
Mm-hmm.
you opinions, and not that you don't take advice from people, but opinions are opinions. We all have them, and you take it or you don't. And some opinions are offered not to help, but to hinder, through jealousy or whatever, whatever it might be. So it's like, just keep living your life, dude. You know, live your life and do what you're going to do.
Well said, Skip.
I love that fable. I just love it.
Yeah, that's great. Just to put a bow on this thing here, what's on the horizon for you? Is there anything you can share without getting in trouble?
Well, I've got some great shows that I'm looping on right now, a couple coming up. But I don't know how much I can share about them. I do one show, two couple shows. One show actually in particular I can talk about. It's called Mythic Quest. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not.
I believe it's on Apple TV, and it's all about it's from the people sunny in Philadelphia, and it's all about, it takes place in a game world where they're developing games. It's hysterical. We're on the third season now, and you should look it up. It's called Mythic Quest,
I'm writing
and
it down.
I'm telling you, it is funny, a funny show. It's one of my favorite shows to work on. As far as anime, I don't do a lot of anime as much anymore. A lot of it has moved to Texas, and they do a lot of it in Texas. With, I think, what is it, Funimation, I
Yeah.
believe. and which is all good. I spend a lot of time in Texas. I'll be in Texas 2 more times this year. I'm coming to Texas. I think El Paso, the day after Halloween, November 1st. As I recall, I'm doing. Let me see what it is called here. It's called Anime Mundo. It's a big show they do in El Paso there, and then I'm going back to Houston at the end. I do a lot of shows in Texas. Texas is anime seems to be anime capital of the world these days, which I love. I love Texas. Another place where I was looking. Not that I want to definitely get out of here, but it's like I dream. A boy can have a dream.
Right.
And so yeah, and I'm coming to Arizona also somewhere in there to Scottsdale, I believe, to do a show there. But yeah, you know.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for giving me some of your time.
Oh, dude, you're awesome. Thanks for reaching out to me. I'm so glad you did, and hopefully I'll get to meet you. Hopefully I'll come to South Carolina one day, and if I do, I'll reach out to you and let you know I'm coming.
Chill out.
Oh,
Have a glass of
dude.
sweet tea.
Yeah, I love sweet tea. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Man, I go to Chick-fil-A here just for the sweet tea. They're the best. Yeah, I love sweet tea. I grew up on sweet tea.
Yeah, me too,
That's
obviously.
how my mother was like sweet tea addict and loved it. And then I finally got off the sugar probably when I was in my 20s and started just going tea. But every once in a while you go back to that sweet tea. And, oh yeah.
Can't replace it.
No way. Sweet tea, baby.
You have a great rest of your day, man. I appreciate you.
You too, brother. Take care of yourself.
Bye bye.